People ask a lot, what equipment do you need to do meal prep services for paying clients? And really, honestly, at the end of the day, if you can do a meal prep for yourself of 3 to 5 entrees, you really probably have everything that you need. Plus, when you're cooking for a client, the last thing you want to do is have to use a ton of specialty appliances that you're going to have to spend a ton of time cleaning after you've done cooking. But one thing that I do recommend to anyone who's starting a personal chef business, doing personal chef services, also known as meals prep services, is a pressure cooker. So pressure cookers have been around forever, and they started as just pots that went on the stove with a locking lid that built up pressure, and it cooked food 2 to 3 times faster. Now, occasionally back in the day, they would explode, hurting people. And so over the years, people have become afraid and leery of using them. Of course, things have changed now, and I'll get to that in a minute. So they can be dangerous, and a lot of people didn't want to use them, but that was a real shame because really they can be life-changing, not only for your personal chef services, but even for you at dinner time. So after the pot on the stove came an electric pressure cooker, and really now those are called multi-cookers. I'm sure you've heard of the Instant Pot. So the benefits here are if you're doing a ton of cooking for a personal chef client or for a party or whatever, you don't have to take up an extra stove burner because they're electric. They're fancy. You can electronically set the pressure to high or low. You can set your cook time. A lot of them have auto programs you can follow, and there's just a ton of other things that may or may not be necessary and that you may or may not ever use. But again, recently these were made hugely popular by Instant Pot, right? A few years ago. So which one do you think is better, and do you really need either one? Okay, I'm gonna tell you all about them, why they're great to use in your personal chef business or just for you at home, what to cook in them, and the different options of what my recommendations are. Hey there, Chef Shelley here. I've had a successful personal chef business for over 15 years, and when I'm not cooking for my own clients, I help passionate cooks just like you start your own personal chef business so that you can get paid to do what you love, cook on your own terms. So, if you're not familiar at all with a pressure cooker, basically, pressure cookers are the total opposite of a slow cooker. For a slow cooker brand, crock pot, a lot of people even call them crock pot, no matter what the brand is, but you take your slow cooker, you put the food in, it needs to cook for hours and hours because it's cooking at a very low temperature. Now, in a pressure cooker, you put the food in, and something that should take hours and hours, like short ribs, can cook in just 45 minutes or whatever because it cooks under pressure, which forces the temperature much higher than you can just get on the stove. And the pressure cooks the food way faster than even a high oven temp. Now, there are reasons and science, but let's just move on to the cooking and the practicalities, shall we? So when it comes to safety for pressure cookers, while they are safer than ever and they have multiple safety features, the electric ones have error codes and warning signals, and even the stovetop ones have multiple venting valves and stuff, I have had an accident with a pressure cooker. I had a gasket, which is the big silicone seal on the inside of the lid, go bad on my stovetop pressure cooker, and I didn't know it. So when I went to move it to the sink to quick release the pressure under running water, it released boiling liquid down my legs. So long story short, I immediately ran cold water on my legs. I went to urgent care. Yes, I had 3rd-degree burns. They gave me a topical cream, and eventually they completely healed, and I don't even have scars, which is super amazing. Now, this is probably because I was really diligent about maintenance, putting it on, unlike my hands where I can show you all sorts of little burns because I go, meh, so I have scars all over my hands, but that's just chef life, right? Anyway, what this accident taught me, and I'm sharing this with you so that you can learn from my experience without having third-degree burns, is that the gaskets, again, the silicone band in the lid, needs to be monitored, and you need to make sure it doesn't have any damage, tears, rough spots, it hasn't dried out, it snaps in good. And even after all that, just replace them regularly, especially more often if you are a heavy user. They are cheap and it'll save you a lot of money in doctor's bills. So let's talk about why you should get a pressure cooker, and this will help you decide if it's something that you actually need or if it's just gonna be one more of those appliances that's cluttering up your cabinets, right? We all have those. So as a personal chef, when you're doing services, speed is of the essence. Time is money and all those other cliches. And I use my pressure cookers a lot. But another good thing about a pressure cooker is that it doesn't just cook long cooking foods like short ribs and roasts faster. It also actually makes food taste better. The flavor is actually more concentrated since the pot is sealed and there's no escaping steam. So now let's talk about, if you want one, do you want an electric one or a stovetop one? What's even the difference besides just using up a burner on the stove? Well, those two types of pressure cookers, stovetop and electric, of course, I have both. I bought a Fagger brand first, and eventually, yes, I did get sucked into the Instant Pot craze. So I have to say I do love the electric because it saves a burner, and that's great if you have a fully loaded stove. I have the large 8-quart stovetop one, and they even make a larger one that you can use for canning. But even though it pretty much did absolutely everything I needed it to, I still got caught up in the Instant Pot craziness, and I made up a justification why I had to have one of those too. Now, to be honest, since they are the electric pressure cookers, now multi-cookers, I justified it by thinking, you know what? If I have a multi-cooker, I can get rid of my slow cooker, my stovetop pressure cooker, and my rice cooker, taking out 3 appliances with one. Count me in, right? Well, of course, this happens so much. Unfortunately, that's not what happened at all. First of all, if you're really into rice, an Instant Pot might never be able to replace your zojirushi, right? Rice can be tricky depending on where you live, what kind you cook, and at the end of the day, just how picky you are about your texture. Second of all, honestly, I have yet to use it successfully as a slow cooker. Part of the reason, after checking it, is that it actually cooks at a much lower temperature than a standard, regular, one-use slow type cooker, and with a ceramic insert. And actually, the other reason in my Instant Pot is it's a vertical cylinder, and large slow cookers now, as you know, are wider ovals. So the food is actually getting more heat. So if you're interested in this, America's Test Kitchen tested a whole bunch of multi-cookers, and they determined actually a lot of them are pretty crappy at slow cooking because they don't get hot enough, or the temperature fluctuates and it ends up taking a couple hours longer. Yikes. I remember trying to cook beans for a client on a slow cooker setting. It was horrible and they just didn't get done. So that doesn't work for a client or getting dinner on the table for the family, right? So here are my recommendations. Am I telling you to buy one if you don't have one? Yes and no. Okay, if you want all the things, we know who we are. We just want all the things, sure. If you don't have a pressure cooker, you're intrigued by being able to cook like pulled pork and pot roast and short ribs in a fraction of the time, absolutely get a pressure cooker. You can also cook dried beans, like I just mentioned, in like 10 minutes. So you can also cook risotto in them. But will you? If you're really short on space and you're trying to replace your slow cooker and your rice cooker, just really do your research and make sure that you'll be able to get rid of the other appliances, that it gets reviews in all the different cooking techniques it's supposed to do. I'm including links below to a multi-cooker, which is of course an Instant Pot, And it's the one that America's Test Kitchen highly recommends, and the stovetop model that is their best buy, because their highly recommended one is almost $300. And that's seriously cutting into my budget for other appliances like chocolate tempering machines and outdoor wood fire pizza ovens and things that I have to have. So whether you have one, get one, or even decide not to, you can still cook multiple dinners at the same time doing personal chef services, aka meal prep services, on the stove, in the oven, or both. There's a link below for my free guide on how to do meal prep services for paying clients you can use to start practicing, because I'm telling you, clients are out there and they're hungry for what you're cooking.